You can always tell when something shifts in the air between a man and a woman. One moment, she's all smiles, texts come fast, calls feel warm, and her attention feels endless. Then suddenly, she starts watching closer. Her tone changes, her eyes narrow a little more, and the questions begin to sound less innocent. What happened? Simple. She's realized you're not as into her anymore. And that realization, it sparks one of the most fascinating and unpredictable reactions you'll ever witness. Welcome back to the channel, fellas. This is where we break down the subtle realities of human behavior, relationships, and the unspoken power dynamics that play out between men and women. And this topic is controversial because it flips the script. Most men are used to being the ones chasing, the ones trying to figure her out. But when she senses your disinterest, the balance changes. Suddenly, you become the mystery, and she has to decide what that means for her pride, her emotions, and her control. See, when a woman realizes you've lost interest, it's not just about feelings. It's about what that loss represents. It challenges her perception of value, her emotional investment, and even her ego. Some women pull away to protect themselves. Others double down to pull you back. And some, they'll pretend not to care while silently plotting how to get the upper hand again. In this video, we're unpacking all of it. The reactions, the reasons behind them, and the smart way to handle that shift without losing your composure. Because the moment she senses your distance, the game changes. And how you respond determines who really walks away in control. But before we start, listen carefully. What you see here in my channel is just a preview, not the full picture. If you really want to master the dating game and learn how modern relationships actually work, don't waste time. Rush right now to https://www.stoicapproachtolife.com, AGVVLS, or go to my description and click the link below and unlock the real strategies, the real teachings, the real results. Don't just watch, level up today. So let's get started. 1. The shift. She feels. It doesn't take much for a woman to notice when something changes in a man's energy. She might not be able to explain it right away, but she feels it. The texts that used to come with excitement now feel delayed. The conversations that once had spark now sound routine. The eye contact, the tone of voice, even the silence between moments, she senses that something has gone missing. Women are naturally intuitive when it comes to emotional connection, and when that connection starts to fade, her instincts come alive. This is the moment she begins to feel the shift, even before you've said a single word. What makes this stage so engaging is that it's often quiet. You won't see an immediate explosion or confrontation. Instead, you'll notice subtle changes in her behavior. She might start pulling back slightly, not as a reaction, but as an investigation. She's trying to confirm whether her feelings are right or if she's overthinking. Maybe she stops texting first, just to see if you'll notice. Maybe she takes longer to reply, mirroring your new pace. Or maybe she begins testing your interest by bringing up random topics just to gauge your tone. All of this happens silently, but every move is calculated, every response measured. The shift she feels is emotional, but also psychological. It challenges her sense of security in the relationship. A woman's connection often depends on emotional consistency. So when your energy drops, she doesn't just see it as disinterest, she interprets it as rejection. That's why many women don't just feel off when a man loses interest. They start internalizing that shift. They question their worth, their actions, their looks. They begin to replay every moment, wondering where things started to change. At the same time, this phase awakens something else, curiosity mixed with pride. On one hand, she's hurt that your attention has faded. On the other, she wants to understand what caused it and whether she can get it back. This tug of war inside her creates an emotional storm that men often overlook. She might act calm, but inside, she's studying everything. The way you respond to her messages, how long it takes, how engaged you sound, every detail becomes a clue. Men often underestimate this stage because it seems peaceful. There's no argument, no emotional outburst, no visible sign of tension. But make no mistake, this is when she's most aware. She's comparing your present self with the man she first connected with. If you used to laugh with her easily and now seem distracted, she notices. If you once cared about her opinions but now respond with short, detached answers, she feels it instantly. That's the beauty and danger of this shift. It's invisible but powerful. When a woman senses that shift, it changes how she views the entire dynamic. You're no longer the consistent man she trusted. You're a puzzle she's trying to solve. And in trying to solve you, she begins to change too. This is the silent beginning of everything that follows: her reactions, her strategies, and her emotional transformation. It all starts with that first quiet realization that something in your energy just isn't the same. 2. Her silent investigation. Once she senses that something has shifted, she doesn't rush to accuse you or demand an explanation. Instead, she slips quietly into observation mode. This is where her intuition sharpens, her curiosity deepens, and every detail suddenly matters. Her mind turns into a detective's notebook, and without saying a word, she begins to gather evidence. You might think you're being subtle with your distance, but trust me, she notices. The woman who once felt comfortable now watches closely, and she's not just watching what you do, she's watching what you no longer do. She studies the rhythm of your communication. When you text less, she doesn't complain immediately. She simply matches your energy to see if you'll notice her pullback. When you seem distracted during a conversation, she'll drop something slightly emotional into the discussion, something she knows used to get your attention, and then she waits for your reaction. If you brush it off, she stores that information quietly. Each small test becomes part of her emotional investigation. She's not trying to be manipulative. She's trying to understand whether what she feels is real or imagined. Her silence during this phase is not weakness, it's strategy. She knows that if she confronts you too soon, you might deny it or retreat further. So instead, she watches for patterns. How do you respond when she mentions plans for the weekend? Do you sound excited or indifferent? Do you still notice the small changes in her appearance, the way she's dressed, the tone in her voice? These things used to matter to you, and if they no longer do, she sees it clearly. To her, these are not random moments. They're signs that tell her exactly where your attention lies. What makes this phase so engaging is how effortlessly she balances emotion with control. She may act normal around you, but internally, she's sorting through mixed feelings: hurt, confusion, and suspicion. At this point, she's not looking for a fight. She's looking for the truth. And if there's one thing that drives her, it's clarity. She wants to know: is your distance about her, or is it something personal you're not saying? Is this just a phase, or are you slowly checking out? These questions echo silently in her mind, even when she's smiling in front of you. Some men mistake this quiet phase for peace, but it's actually the calm before her decision. The way you act during her silent investigation determines what comes next. If you confirm her fears with coldness or inconsistency, she'll start preparing her exit emotionally long before she physically leaves. But if she senses genuine confusion or sees you making effort, she may pause her judgment. She's not impossible to reach during this time, but she is harder to fool. This is also when women become emotionally observant on a deeper level. They start noticing what you invest your energy into now that you're not investing it in them. Whether it's work, friends, or someone else, she connects the dots quickly. And even if she doesn't speak on it, she's already formed her conclusion. The investigation may be silent, but it's far from harmless. Because once she uncovers the truth, her next move will depend entirely on what she's discovered about you, and that's when everything begins to change. 3. The emotional roller coaster. This is where the calm gives way to chaos. Once she's gathered enough clues to confirm her suspicion that your interest is fading, emotions begin to take over. Her heart and her pride start pulling in opposite directions. One side wants to confront you, to demand answers, to know why the energy that once held her has disappeared. The other side tells her to play it cool, to protect her dignity, to not give you the satisfaction of knowing she's affected. And so begins the emotional roller coaster, a ride filled with highs of confidence and lows of confusion. Now here's where many men and women both get it wrong. When she starts showing emotional reactions, snapping at small things, going silent for hours, or becoming overly affectionate, it's easy for a man to label her as too emotional or dramatic. That's the wrong approach. Her reactions aren't random. They're rooted in the emotional imbalance she feels from your distance. The right move here is not to dismiss her feelings, but to understand the trigger behind them. She's not angry that you're busy. She's hurt that she no longer feels prioritized. She's not clingy. She's trying to reconnect to something that feels like it's slipping away. Recognizing that difference is key. On the other hand, some women also make mistakes during this stage. The wrong move on her part is to try to force attention through emotional manipulation, by guilt-tripping, threatening to leave, or playing jealousy games. That never fixes anything. It only widens the gap. The right way for her to handle it would be to communicate openly, without accusation. Expressing how she feels, rather than trying to provoke a reaction, gives the man clarity instead of pressure. But of course, not every woman takes that route, especially when emotions are raw. For men, this is the time to act with emotional intelligence. If you truly have lost interest, don't play along out of guilt. That's the wrong path. It leads to resentment and confusion for both of you. Be respectful enough to be honest. But if you still care, if your distance was unintentional, a result of stress, distraction, or routine, then this is your chance to correct it. Re-engage in small, genuine ways. Ask her how she's really feeling. Give her reassurance not through grand gestures, but through consistency. The right correction isn't about giving her everything she demands. It's about restoring the balance that your withdrawal disturbed. The emotional roller coaster only becomes destructive when both sides refuse to slow down and listen. She reacts, you pull away more, and the loop repeats. The wrong thing to do as a man is to fight her emotions with silence or indifference. It only confirms her fears. The right thing is to create space for truth. Because when you meet her chaos with calm understanding, you disarm the tension. You make it safe for her to express what she really feels, rather than fight for your attention. In the end, this stage isn't about who's right or wrong, it's about emotional awareness. Every reaction she shows is a reflection of how much your energy once meant to her. The correction lies not in blame, but in balance, restoring respect, honesty, and emotional safety. Because once those return, the roller coaster finally slows down, and both of you can see clearly whether this connection still deserves to continue. 4. Control and countermoves. When a woman realizes you've lost interest, her next move often comes from a place of self-preservation. This is where she starts taking back control, not necessarily over you, but over her emotions. And for men, this is where you need to understand that control isn't about dominance, silence, or pretending not to care. It's about maturity, clarity, and the ability to handle emotional shifts without losing your sense of self. This stage is powerful because it's not just about what she does next, it's also about how you respond. See, when a woman starts to feel your distance, she instinctively repositions herself in the dynamic. She might withdraw to regain her sense of value, or she might start showing strength to remind both you and herself that she doesn't need validation to be confident. That's her countermove. And this is where most men misread her intentions. They see her sudden independence or emotional detachment as proof that she's done. But often, she's not leaving. She's simply reclaiming her peace. That's motivation in motion. She's not trying to win you back anymore. She's trying to win herself back. Now, here's where the motivational lesson comes in for men. When she reclaims her control, it's not your cue to panic. It's your cue to reflect. Instead of asking, why is she acting different? Ask, what did my actions communicate? Because if you can identify the gap between what you felt and what you expressed, you'll begin to grow in ways most men never do. The truth is, emotional control doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means leading with awareness. You don't have to chase, explain, or overcompensate. You just need to realign your focus on your purpose, your mindset, and the kind of energy you bring into every connection. The counter move for a man in this situation isn't to fight her independence. It's to mirror it with strength and calm confidence. Let her see that your sense of value doesn't crumble just because her attention shifts. Women naturally respect emotional composure. It communicates depth, stability, and leadership. When she realizes that you're not reacting out of ego or desperation, she begins to view you differently. That's the kind of presence that commands respect, not through control, but through centeredness. Motivation in this moment is about transformation. It's about understanding that losing someone's attention doesn't have to mean losing yourself. In fact, it's often the test that builds your emotional discipline. If she's taking her power back, do the same, just in your own lane. Reconnect with your goals, your peace, your confidence. The stronger you become, mentally and emotionally, the more you realize that the situation isn't about winning her back. It's about winning your focus back. Control and counter moves are not a battle of pride. They're lessons in self-mastery. When you learn to handle distance with grace instead of panic, silence with understanding instead of ego, you become the kind of man no emotional storm can shake. Whether she stays or goes, you stand firm. That's real control. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything but always inspires respect. 5. When pride takes over. Pride is a powerful force, beautiful when controlled, destructive when it's not. Once she senses you've lost interest, pride steps in to protect her from vulnerability. She may start acting unbothered, posting things that subtly imply she's happier without you, or suddenly becoming too busy to respond. These moves are rarely about genuine peace. They're often a defense mechanism. She's hurt, but she doesn't want you to see it. She wants to look strong, but beneath that strength lies confusion. And this is where most men misread the game. You see her pride as a sign she's moved on, but in truth, it's her way of managing emotional damage. Now, here's where persuasion meets wisdom. You can't fight pride with pride. That's where most men go wrong. When she starts pulling back or acting cold, a lot of men respond by matching that energy, ignoring her calls, withholding attention, pretending they don't care either. It feels powerful in the moment, but it's not strength. It's ego in disguise. Two people acting like they don't care is not maturity. It's mutual destruction. Someone has to rise above that pattern, and if you're the one listening to this right now, let it be you. The persuasive truth is this: pride doesn't heal wounds, communication does. The only way to break through her pride isn't by chasing her or arguing, it's by staying consistent and authentic. If you still care, show it in actions that speak calmly, not desperately. If you truly don't, then walk away with respect, not spite. The power move isn't proving who's more unbothered. It's proving who's more emotionally grounded. Women are deeply responsive to emotional maturity. When they see a man who doesn't need to play games to feel secure, that's when respect is restored. At the same time, let's be honest, her pride is also a test. She wants to see if you'll fold, if your disinterest was real, or if you were just reacting to something temporary. She might act indifferent, but she's watching closely to see how you handle her silence. This is where your composure matters most. Don't chase to feed her ego, and don't retreat to feed yours. Instead, stay centered. Be polite, be stable, and let your calm speak for you. Pride thrives on reaction. When you refuse to react, you take away its power. What persuades her to rethink her stance isn't your words, it's your behavior. When she realizes you're not bitter, not defensive, not playing the same emotional chess she is, something inside her begins to shift. That's when curiosity replaces pride. She starts wondering why you're so composed, why you're not chasing, and why you seem fine without trying to prove a point. That curiosity becomes attraction again, but only if your detachment is real, not forced. Pride wants to win. Wisdom wants peace. The most persuasive thing you can do when pride takes over, hers or yours, is to choose peace every time. Because peace confuses games, disarms ego, and commands respect in a way pride never can. 6. How you should respond. This is where understanding turns into strategy. By now, you've seen how a woman reacts when she senses your interest fading, from the silent investigation to emotional swings and prideful withdrawal. But the real question is, what should you do about it? Most men either overreact or underreact. Some panic and start chasing, smothering her with attention to fix what's broken. Others pull back completely, thinking indifference will make them look strong. Both responses come from misunderstanding emotional balance. The right response lies in self-awareness, communication, and consistency. First, educate yourself on emotional responsibility. When a woman feels your distance, her reaction isn't just about you. It's about what that distance represents. So, before responding, ask yourself an honest question. Have I truly lost interest, or am I just disconnected? If it's genuine loss of attraction, forcing a connection out of guilt helps no one. In that case, communicate your feelings with respect. It's not weakness, to be honest, it's maturity. But if your disinterest is temporary, maybe due to stress, distractions, or complacency, then your response should focus on rebuilding connection through small, authentic gestures. The most effective way to respond is through calm, intentional communication. Don't let her emotional reaction push you into defensiveness. Instead of saying, "You're overreacting," say, "I can see something feels different between us. Let's talk about it." That one shift in tone changes everything. It shows awareness without blame, confidence without arrogance. Women respond positively to emotional clarity. When they feel heard and not judged, the tension naturally begins to settle. Educating yourself also means learning timing. When she's emotional, that's not the time to argue logic. Listen first, even if you don't agree. The best response in emotional moments isn't explanation, it's patience. Once she feels understood, she'll be more open to reason. But if you meet emotion with coldness, you'll only deepen the divide. The second lesson here is emotional independence. You can't fix someone's reaction, but you can control your presence. Don't chase validation. Don't mirror her distance out of ego. Instead, anchor yourself in your purpose, routine, and growth. When a man remains steady, emotionally and mentally, in the middle of emotional chaos, he earns respect. Women naturally trust men who can remain calm under pressure. It's not about showing zero emotion, it's about showing controlled emotion. Another key part of your response is consistency. If you decide to stay, then stay fully. Reconnect through genuine interest. Ask questions. Listen deeply. Show appreciation. Don't fake affection. Rebuild connection through sincerity. Over time, she'll sense the difference between a man reacting to guilt and a man who truly cares. Lastly, learn from the situation. Every emotional distance, every argument, every silent phase is a chance to understand relational psychology better. A man who learns doesn't repeat mistakes. He refines his approach. The educated response isn't just about handling this woman. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent enough to handle any relationship with maturity. When you respond with understanding instead of ego, you don't just regain respect, you evolve. 7. Turning distance into power. Distance isn't always the end. It can be the reset button that changes everything. When a woman realizes you've lost interest, that space between you becomes a mirror reflecting truth. It forces her to see what's really there and forces you to see who you've become. The key is understanding that distance doesn't have to destroy. It can actually redefine. If you handle it right, it can shift the power dynamic in your favor, not through manipulation, but through growth, confidence, and calm detachment. Think of it like this. When she feels your interest fade, she expects chaos. She expects arguments, explanations, or guilt-driven attention. But when you don't react with panic, when you remain composed, focused, and still respectful, you instantly change the emotional script. You move from being predictable to being intriguing. That's the first step in turning distance into power. Control your energy. You're not punishing her with silence. You're protecting your peace. You're not trying to win her back. You're centering yourself. And that shift in energy, when done genuinely, has more impact than 1,000 texts or apologies ever could. This is where self-mastery becomes magnetic. When you redirect the attention you once gave her toward your goals, passions, and personal development, she notices. Women are naturally drawn to men who have direction, not desperation. The more you evolve in your silence, the louder your growth speaks. She begins to wonder what changed in you, why you're suddenly calm, why your energy feels different. That curiosity often reignites attraction, but even if it doesn't, you've still won something bigger: control over your emotional state. Engagement in this stage is not about tactics, it's about transformation. You can't fake inner peace, you have to build it. Use the distance to sharpen your mind, upgrade your habits, and reframe how you approach relationships altogether. Maybe your loss of interest wasn't random. Maybe it was your spirit telling you to evolve beyond the same emotional patterns. When you start treating distance as a teacher instead of a punishment, everything changes. And here's the twist. Women respect men who respect themselves. When she sees you no longer reacting to emotional highs and lows, when your presence feels calm and self-assured, she either steps up to match that energy or steps aside entirely. Both outcomes are in your favor. If she returns, it's because she recognizes your worth. If she doesn't, you've still leveled up. The real power lies in being unaffected by what's uncertain. Turning distance into power means mastering your emotions so deeply that you can care without clinging, love without losing yourself, and walk away without bitterness. It means understanding that emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. Once you reach that point, no situation can shake your confidence again. You stop chasing validation and start commanding respect, quietly, effortlessly, and authentically. So, if she realizes you've lost interest and the distance grows, don't fear it. Use it. Grow in it. Because distance doesn't weaken the strong, it reveals them. And when you rise from that silence more grounded, focused, and unshakably composed, that's when you truly reclaim your power. At the end of it all, when a woman realizes you've lost interest, what unfolds isn't just a test of emotions, it's a lesson in self-awareness, growth, and control. Every reaction, every silence, and every shift in energy teaches you something about yourself. The goal isn't to win her back. It's to understand your own power. When you learn to navigate emotional distance with clarity instead of chaos, you evolve into a man who commands respect without demanding it. Remember, it's not the loss that defines you. It's how you rise, refocus, and rebuild from it that truly sets you apart. And before you go, remember, what you've just watched is only a small piece of the puzzle. If you're serious about mastering the dating game and building real confidence in modern relationships, don't wait. Visit https://www.stoicapproachtolife.com AGVVLS right now and get access to the full teaching. That's where the real transformation begins.